Welcome back to Raw the Podcast. I'm your host, Allie, founder of TheCheekyClean and Conscious Cart, empowering consumers to live more consciously through education, resources, and safe-sourced products. And I'm here with a fan favorite of Raw the Podcast, Jen Rudolph. Welcome back.
Hey.
Last time we saw you on here, we were in sunny Tulum.
Yeah, we were. Oh my God, you know what? I was wearing the same thing.
Yeah, because you got that there.
I haven't changed
But that's a different shirt. What is that cute shirt?
This is Neighborhood Pets, an
Okay.
organization.
Pull it up.
Pull it up. Neighborhood Pets. Shout out to Neighborhood Pets.
Shout out to Neighborhood Pets. Tell us about it, because I don't know about it.
So my niece has
That.
some friends, family that does this charity work every year where they take a bunch of artists and students to paint skateboards. And then they have this fundraiser to sell the skateboards. We have a couple of them in here in the podcast room. Yep. And this year, they pick a different charity each year. And this year they chose Neighborhood Pets. Neighborhood Pets is an organization that helps raise money to supply people with food for their pets.
Oh my gosh, I love this.
Hospitalization, getting them fixed. I mean, all sorts of different things. I haven't done a huge deep dive on this, but
I mean, this is everything it provides, which
everything
is so
right
cool.
here. This
because when you
website.
think about it, this is something I realized yesterday, actually. So I took my the favorite thing to do for like sparking joy in my life is taking my dogs on a walk to my local coffee shop. I mean, the people that I meet, the connections that I make through these dogs, they're just like, they spread light, not only to me, but to other people. It's like having a pet is so good for every part of your
mentally, for your soul.
They are so expensive. And I think a
course.
lot of people are like, especially those who might be down and out are like, I would love to have one, but I can't. And so to have access to resources and care.
So that you can have those pets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Absolutely.
That's
It
really
was
cool.
something I had never heard of. And I was
never
just
heard of
like, I
that.
bought a bunch of t-shirts from them and I was just like, oh my God, I got to spread the love of this place because this is amazing.
How
I mean, to
cool
help
is
with
this?
spray neuter, all these things.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. And then, I mean, you and I are always the ones sharing memes back and forth like, oh, my mom paid off her bills. Think I'll go sprain my leg for $700 at the vet.
And
You know what I mean?
Of the dog.
The dog's like, let's go to the vet,
It's
Mom.
like, there's one where it's like a dog in the car and it's like, get it, Mom. We're going to spend $7,000 on my tummy issues.
That's right. I have a stomach ache. Call off today so you can take care of my tummy.
It's really cool.
But if you have pets and you can't take care of it, this is an organization that
not
can help
sponsored
out.
by, but
Yeah.
want you to know about.
Hell yeah, they're
That's
the best.
so cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, Neighborhood Pets.
So
Speaking of animals,
we have things to discuss today. Jen and I, for those of you who maybe haven't heard about our friendship or heard a past episode where Jen's been on the podcast, Jen and I are very close friends. She's done my hair for decades on decades and is the owner and creator of the space in the studio here where I host the podcast. And one of my closest confidants that I have real and raw conversations with. And through our conversations is kind of what was a catalyst for me wanting to have a podcast and share more real experience because it's so powerful. You hear so much experience from other people being a hairstylist and a business owner. And I think we just kind of were like, gosh, how cool would it be to have a space where we could share some of this and help other people through real conversations. And so you and I are always having these in-depth, deep conversations about things. And you have always been someone who's been, I would say, on the cutting edge of learning more to live better, which is the whole point of the Cheeky brand. We both love documentaries. We love learning on podcasts, like studying different things, figuring out like what foods, medicines, remedies we can incorporate into our life to help us live better and feel good. I feel like you, especially like lately, have been even more so on a journey, just being in this time of your life, peri and pre-menopause.
maybe meno.
Yeah.
We're finding all that out.
Right. When like you're really experiencing how much can change within your body and trying to find ways naturally to heal yourself and feel good through the process.
And the whole HRT journey, which has been like up and down.
We really should do a podcast on just that one day.
We will for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to be going back to the doctors at the end of the month and getting a little bit more blood work and everything. So I should have more information then. But what I have learned this past year, holy cow. And I really realized that I was like, at my age, I used to be the youngest one in the crowd, and now I'm the oldest one in the crowd all the time, like between my friends, my staff, my family, blah blah blah. And I just want to like show everybody, my experience with.
Yeah, because you've been having to learn it on your own.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I think most women are.
There's like way more stuff out there now than like when my mom went through it and everything, thank God. But it's very interesting, very interesting. And, this whole thing with food has definitely tied in with it. We'll talk more about it, but God, the journey I have been on with the connection with the hormones and the food kind of brought us to this place for sure.
Yeah.
And brought me to this like crazy ass meltdown where I reached out to you and was like, please help me with this because this is like so mind bending. I don't know which way to go.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And I also think from being behind the chair, I just job where I meet so many different people in my chair for so many years that I have so many different experiences.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I can give you a tally on this is what happens when you do this and this is what happens when you don't do that because of how many people have been behind my chair.
And it's such a vulnerable space where people share so much with you.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so I think you have this like unique bird's eye perspective into people who are really suffering.
Yeah,
like
for
whether
sure.
that's from health issues or mental health issues or addiction or whatever it might be. Like they feel this safe space with their stylist, especially someone like yourself who is so, I think, like welcoming, non-judgmental to share with. And so it's like created this own ability for you to learn and want to like help yourself in different ways too.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm very grateful to have this. I'm very glad to not be honestly around like the same people every day in, day out, and everything. It gives you a whole, sometimes you long for a little bit of chill, but that's why I have two salons. One's real chill and one's real crazy.
Yes.
So,
but there really is nothing more empowering as a consumer, I think, especially in this era of awakening maybe to more information. There's nothing more empowering. And what I always want to try to help people realize is that your ability to heal your body, to reverse disease, to thrive mentally, physically, and emotionally is directly related to conscious choices that you make. And there really is opportunity to feel better by becoming aware of routines and changes and ways that you can fuel your body with the right things and consume mentally, emotionally, and physically differently in order to have a different outcome. It's just the chemistry of our body. It was so interesting. I attended a conference last week called the Parker Seminars in Vegas. It's a health and wellness conference, but they have everyone from top in their fields, whether it's doctors, athletes, authors, entrepreneurs, speaking on ways to live longer and better. And the theme of all of these presentations was that the basics, diet, lifestyle, environments are critical and the way to determine our longevity. Dr. William Lee is a gentleman who's very into like food as medicine, talked a lot about the different components of food and how they can really help promote longevity. He actually said that 75% of our longevity is determined by diet, food, and lifestyle. And to me, I'm like, that is so empowering. And if we can learn how to live better, we can actually live longer. And that's going to yield more value than any $40,000 biohacking equipment that you may feel like you're missing out on. And I think there's something so cool about that. And really quickly, just speaking about the hormones of it all, the first presentation that I attended was a woman who, I can't remember her full name. I just like think in social media terms, her Instagram handle is @thegirlfrienddoctor. Highly recommend. She's an OBGYN physician. She was told at age 39 that she was...
This is in Vegas?
She was diagnosed with infertility and early menopause. Age 39. Told that she could never have children again naturally. Maybe IVF would work, but it would probably take multiple rounds. And offered antidepressants to help her with this diagnosis because obviously it was
gonna bum her
concerning.
out.
She was like,
can you say that Instagram again?
The Girlfriend Doctor.
Okay.
She was like, I'm not taking, and this is like her peers, right? Like she's in this world of mainstream medicine and she's like, absolutely not. Am I like taking this? Like there's just something that doesn't feel right about this. And so instead of taking the medication and, obviously she was bummed out about it, she took a leave of absence from her job, and her husband and her 2 kids traveled the world for 1 year. And she started learning through these travels about different ways that cultures heal the body through different modalities. So for example, in Peru, she learned about maca for fertility. So she kind of like took all these insights, everything from how important joy is in our life and how joy is related to hormone production, to different natural ways of reviving your hormonal and overall health system.
Incredible.
Reversed the diagnosis completely naturally, got pregnant naturally at age 41, and now is on this mission as a women's health provider to help other women feel better, live longer, and overcome a lot of these fertility issues. So I was so inspired by her that I posted.
Anna Kabeka.
Yes.
Yep.
Dr. Anna Kabeka. I posted about it, and I can't tell you how many women DM'd me and were like, oh my God, I needed to see this right now. I'm going through infertility right now.
Yeah.
And so I just can't say enough, guys. Like, her whole thing was, your diagnosis is not your destiny. And I think that the more we can talk about ways to live better and differently and habits that you can consistently adopt, it's just going to create this awareness for you to find what works for your body. And there's so much opportunity.
Because how everyone is so different is just why they do have to do their own personal deep dive, because everyone is just so different.
Yes. And I think like not only realizing that every body is different, but also realizing this age of information overload that we're in, and that everywhere, everything you see has an agenda behind the scenes, and you have to really use discernment now. And as I say, become uninfluenced to make intuitive decisions that are best for you. And so hopefully that's what we can do today, because kind of along the lines of this, you know, I came back with this renewed sense of like the way I want to eat and live, because I do have parents who have, you know, passed away from disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia. Like, these are huge issues that I at one point thought that was going to be my fate.
Right. So
to learn that, by the way, in the documentary that we watched, 3% of Alzheimer's cases is hereditary. 3. So that means 97
is diet and lifestyle.
Yep.
100%.
So I'm like when I hear that, I'm like, hell yeah.
I know.
There's hope.
I know. But then you start realizing all the things that...
But then we realize the toxic world we live in.
Yeah.
And that's what... So Jen called me this week and was like, oh my God, you have to watch this documentary. My mind is blown, and we need to figure out how to source better, because this shit really opened my eyes.
Right. And then I will say that one of the reasons why this documentary was, you know, and I had said to my best friend, I'm like, oh my God, this documentary, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, I watched it like 14 years ago. And I'm like, no, you didn't. It's from 2004. 2024, sorry. But she was right in the sense that so much more has happened in the last 2 years, for sure.
Totally.
You know, no doubt about it. But what happened with me personally is that doing this kind of like hormone algorithm, nothing but hormones, and then of course nothing but the pesticides in the Glyphosate.
And I think you're getting like inundated with that, and everyone is.
I am.
Because
and I was.
There was a recent political bill signed that they're allowing it to continue to be used.
But I mean, and when I open up my Instagram, which, you know, I'm not a huge social media person per se, but heck yeah, I go down the rabbit hole. But when it's every single one is about it, don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this, this has it in it, this had it, this doesn't have a lot, this has only a little, this one says,
don't eat this, don't eat this.
Not a drop in your thing. And that, by the way, it's hormone disruptors. And, you know, I'm trying to clean myself out. And I'm like, well, thank God every doctor is yelling at me to have more protein, because I'm eating so much protein and plant protein, blah, 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 but stay away from the glyphosate. And then I watched this documentary and it's like, stay the fuck away from meat. And I'm like, I'm going to starve to death. There's just no doubt about it. And I mean, watching it through and learning different things about it, and then learning more and more.
So
about
we
it
went through a journey, long story short, through this documentary
for
this
sure.
week. And I'm so glad.
I was flipping out at one point.
And I'm so glad that you told me to watch it, because like I'm coming at it from this lens of all the research that I've already done. And having access to, this past year specifically, doctors in the functional medicine space that I am so inspired by, and Dr. Rhonda Patrick, and people who are trying to break down these commercial prescriptions for the way that we are supposed to live based on, like, say, the formal dietary guidelines and things like that, you know? So it's like true info. Anyways, so I just think both of us were really disturbed by part of these documentary, and I think important to talk about because there is so much noise and polarization in social media everywhere right now. You go to Starbucks and it's like a protein freaking drink. Like, it's everywhere. And so the point of the episode today is to really talk about what we learned through the documentary, what some key takeaways were, and give you guys tangible ways and takeaways to create a diet that works best for yourself and hopefully find the resources for health and longevity, because again, it's so important. So before we get into it, I wanted to read this quote that I heard from a podcast this morning. It's called The Through Line or something like that. Something about a line.
It is. Hold up.
The name of it.
How do we respond to evil?
Yeah, what's the name of the podcast?
Pulling the thread with
Pulling the thread. Pulling the thread. And it's like, how do we respond to evil? And it was really about just like in society right now, there is a lot of negativity going on. And like, how do we manage that and find the ability to connect with the light within ourselves to in turn help the collective, which is really kind of what I'm always trying to talk about on here, you know? Right. But it gets tough when we're in this world of so much darkness around us. But there was some of these parts of this documentary that I think made us both like so infuriated with the norms and the way that our food system has become. When I read this or when I heard this morning, I wrote it down because I feel like it's just like a good perspective as we go into the conversation today. So it says, revelation is not the end of an illusion. It is the beginning of responsibility. Emotion is not the enemy of consciousness. It is the raw material. The revelation of evil does not occur to crush us. It occurs to summon us to a higher level of lucidity. What is this experience trying to educate in you, not merely correct? And that's what I want to take from this documentary is what did I learn from this and how can I change? Because we're not going to be able to just change the commercial meat industry tomorrow. But if we can take the positives from how we can shift our lifestyles and then help others do the same, we're starting the process and helping the change be possible. And I think that's empowering instead of feeling like we're fucked.
Yeah, totally. For sure.
Yep. So like we said, you can live longer and better via the diet that you consume. Sadly, and the first part of this, which the documentary is called We Are What We Eat. It is on Netflix. It's a twin experiment. So their whole premise is that every body is different. So to say like the omnivore diet works on everyone or plant-based or whatever, it's hard to do studies on it because everyone's like microbiome and chemistry is so different. So there's so many variables. So they took sets of twins who have the exact same DNA and put them on one on an omnivore diet and one on a vegetarian diet for 8 weeks. Vegan. And for the first 4 weeks, they provided the food. In 4 weeks, they had to provide it for themselves. And the journey of the way that the documentary unfolds is really interesting. And I personally had some really good takeaways on both the meat industry, a vegetarian diet, our culture in general around diet. But I think one thing universally, like the first episode gave some really good stats on just like diet in our country in general. And it is called the Standard American Diet, hyphenated to SAD for a reason. Our norms here, even though I say something like diet can improve our lifespan tenfold, we are consistently, and the majority of people are consuming a diet that will actually do the opposite.
For sure.
There are a few reasons that we've become so desensitized to it, and a couple of things I thought was so interesting. One was our cultural programming with food habits. And they were saying that like pre-World War II, it was this farming culture. You eat what you get from the land. Once World War II hit, they needed soldiers. So the government was like, we need to pump calories into the mass public as quickly as possible. So it became this slow and sure, mass-produced world of convenience and calorie pumping that the government was behind. So in the same way that we became desensitized to cigarettes in the 1950s, and there were literally ads saying that cigarettes are good for you.
And doctors smoking in their office.
I mean, this is backed by medical science at that point.
Mm-hmm.
The same exact thing happened with food, where we're being sold this food pyramid.
Yeah, like the TV dinners when they're like
Yeah.
the TV dinners, how easy and it tastes good. And
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
And so not only have we, it's like,
well, we've been
our
desensitized,
parents,
plus we weren't in that era. So,
Yeah.
you know, we just like, they got desensitized, they started on us, and that's what they taught us.
And that's what they taught us.
Yes.
And I think about now, and it's like, oh, well, we're not living in an era now where we're like watching ads and stuff. I actually think it's times 100.
For
you
sure.
open up your phone, and everyone all day, every day is exposed to their phone way more than they used to be to vintage ads.
Sure.
And all it is pushing these agendas of what is going to serve a profit-driven economy.
Yeah, but like even where I'm at, what's kind of like, you know, when I open up my phone and what is being pushed into my face now is now so the opposite, kind of like what you're talking about, the noise. It's so the opposite. And it has a way to do it to make you feel like a bad person.
And the guilt and fear.
And even when we say you can reverse disease with food, it's almost like, to me, sometimes when like ads are telling me you can do this and stuff like that, my mind goes to, if I don't do this, I'm a failure and I'm going to die.
Totally.
So it's kind of like, I wish even sometimes the language was a little bit more gentle. Like, hey, it's possible.
It's possible.
You know what I mean? Like, it's possible that this can happen. Let me show you how a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, don't beat yourself up if you can't do it. Try to make, like you're always saying, like, just the better choices. Because I'm like, I'll show you something and you'll be like, yeah, that does suck, but it's a lot better than this.
It's a lot better. And like when you weigh the options, you choose the best of the options and you do your best. And it is all about balance.
I mean, just all in all, and I know we'll get into it more, but all in all, when I think of myself in Little Parma Heights and being like, where the fuck do I go to a farm? You know what I mean? It's easier than I thought to find, for sure.
Exactly.
But,
and that's the empowering part.
And that's why we're here to talk about those.
So we've been programmed to think that convenience is king.
For sure.
And I think
and choice.
And choice. And I think that's where it's like, in that programming, we've actually been stripped of our choices.
Well, and then, you know, we all complain right here about being so busy. And as busy as we are and everything, of course, I need those convenient things and stuff. And it's almost like, trust me when I tell you, if I had to go to the farmer's market or to somewhere to pick up better quality foods, then I wouldn't have the choice to actually do all these other things I put on my plate all the time. And then maybe I wouldn't be so busy that I had to go to those convenient processed things. You know what I mean? It's just like working out. Like, I don't have the time. No, I don't make the time.
You don't
know
make
what I mean?
the time. Exactly.
That's how it goes.
One of the speakers this past week was author of a book called The Happier Hour. And she talked about how, like, think of a jar. And if you put the golf balls in a jar first and then fill it with sand, it can fit all your golf balls.
Right.
If you put the sand in first and then try to put the golf balls in, the golf balls don't fit. When we look at our time, we should choose the golf balls first. And that's actually something I've been really trying to get better at.
So
is like, what is important? Those need to be first in my week. And then let all the other stuff, like, we'll get to it. But don't make it so you don't get to do the things that are best for you.
I can't remember what podcast I was listening to. I got to get it and get it to you. But I was just listening to somebody talk about how we are so addicted to if there isn't a problem. Like, for instance, if there's not, my girls will tell you, if there isn't a problem at work, I'm calling them like, what's going on? What do you need?
Right, because
and they'll say,
used to that.
Nothing's going on. We're fine. And I'm like, you're lying.
Yeah.
You have to tell me something's happening. I have to fix something right now. So I'm constantly going to my laptop, my phone, blah, 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 because I'm waiting just for that phone call, text, something, because I know. Because, of course, there's been days where I'm swamped with them.
Yeah.
But you get addicted to that a bit and you just keep going at it and fixing and fixing and fixing. That when days are calm, I don't know what to do with myself if there's not problems to fix. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So if I had those
Your
golf
nervous
balls,
system is used to it.
for sure, and wants it, and it somehow makes me happy. My dopamine goes up and blah, blah, blah. And if I had those golf balls in place, maybe, you know what I mean? Then I wouldn't be searching for problems all the time.
Right.
100%.
And maybe you look at your week and you say, okay, like, where in my week do I take the time
Say
to
no.
source my food?
Right, exactly. 100%.
And if that's like, and that's my goal today, is to like help people realize we do have choices
For sure.
and they can be convenient, but awareness is first, and there are going to be cases in which like you can't get everything from one convenient grocery store.
Right.
So being aware that, okay, like on Saturday mornings, I'm going to order my groceries for the week from the farmer's market because I know it'll be here within 2 days and then I can meal prep.
Right.
And just like being aware that this should be a priority because it will help you long term. And in the same way that you make that time to stress yourself out and overwork, like you got to make it a priority to source your food.
But you're absolutely right. The convenient culture we have and the choices culture, I was just telling when we were kind of talking about this previously with some clients and, I was mentioning some of the resources for getting better quality meats and whatnot. I had mentioned this Fresh Fork marketplace, and I used to do it all the time. And I was sitting there like stunned, like for the life of me, cannot figure out why I stopped. And somewhere in there, convenience came along. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I probably was because I didn't feel like driving to pick it up. I didn't even have to grocery shop.
Totally.
I just had to go pick up a bag.
Yeah.
And something more convenient came. Yeah. Or more choices came too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some noise somewhere else where you don't have to do that. You could do this or something happened. Yep. But I really was like, I could not figure out why I stopped. And here I am like, where do I go? And then as soon as I like Google, where can I go? Close to me, it's like Fresh Fork. I'm like, oh yeah. I knew that in the back of my mind.
Sometimes we forget the importance of it,
Sure.
And it's like that golf ball got like pushed to the side.
Yeah, because a restaurant pops up and is like, we have grass-fed everything. And I'm like, DoorDash.
And everyone's trying to sell you something. And so that's what's like this documentary really illuminated me too, is like, wow, the behind the scenes, which is what I'm always trying to share about. The mass manufactured, mass produced world of convenience creates real concern for our health.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do for your body is to just like take a beat and think about where you're sourcing your food from, because it is our fuel and it's worth it. And I will give you guys a convenient resource for everything. Yeah. I will. And it's like some people, personally, I don't do well with the like subscriptions. I can't,
That might have been another reason why I did that.
So if Fresh Fork, which is a great option, is subscription based, that just doesn't work for me. Right. There is going to be a need for me to have access, whether I love to go to the farmer's market. I like to see the stuff that I'm buying. But in the wintertime, when those aren't as readily available, I source from the one regenerative option that is in 3 different grocery stores here. So Force of Nature is an option that is regenerative, either there or Ohio City Provisions. So Force of Nature is in Whole Foods, Fresh Time, and Heinen's.
So for me, going to the farmer's market is like a field trip for me.
So fun, agreed.
So fun. Don't have the time a lot.
Right, because you work Saturdays.
Well, I work kind of like, actually Saturdays are one of the days I don't work, but like Sundays I work. I do all my paperwork and everything. You know what I mean? Like the one day I stay home, I don't want to go anywhere. And I don't want to go, especially whatever winter, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to go anywhere. I want it to show up at my door. Yeah. I know it's blah, 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 but whatever. Like for me, the subscriptions work well because of that. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So they can both work. I think there's probably times where I fall in. Listen, if I'm bored for a second, I'm like, I put another project on my plate. If I don't have any projects, I'm like, why aren't I going to the farmer's market? You know what I mean?
So, totally. But that's why I think it's good to know that there's options.
There's, options for what works for people.
And I think when we first were watching this documentary, it's easy to be like, wow, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
But it's like when you peel back the layers, we actually do have a lot of options. They're just not as pushed into our aura, because it is different than the societal norm for many reasons. And most of it is because what is pushed our way is funded governmentally and profit-wise.
Right.
So the social programming is so key. And I think to be aware of that is just like incredible. And then the other thing is this family behaviors, income access. I think there's a real issue in our country with access, especially in lower income areas, to quality food. And that's for so many reasons. And that's really hard to see. And so what I really want to do is learn more about the organizations that are, whether it's urban gardening or supporting access for people in lower income areas. Like one of the coolest things ever is this at Root Cafe. This is just a small example, but at Root Cafe, they have a community fridge. and people can drop off produce. And I mean, homeless people come in through there all the time.
What?
And grab the food. And they have non-perishables, and then they have a fridge.
I should get
for
a
stuff.
fridge in here.
So you should. I mean, there's not a lot of homeless people outside here.
No, I know. But I mean, for people who want
Right.
access.
It's a good idea. And I think like it's crazy. I used to volunteer for them and fill it. And so it's like crazy to see how many people come through, but anyone can donate stuff. So for example, you go to the farmer's market, you over purchase, you're like, oh, I don't want this to go bad in a few days. I'm not going to end up eating it. Take it to the fridge.
Oh my God, this is mind-blowing.
Event that I did, I had all of this food left over. And so I just took it to the fridge.
Listen, this is something very important to talk about because you and I talk about this all the time, especially living by ourselves. The amount of food that you get at restaurants, even in grocery stores, even when you buy vegetables sometimes. Like I was picking up a thing of radishes the other day and I'm like, what am I going to do with
800 radishes?
Why do I need 800 radishes? It's just little old me. Like they're going to go bad.
And they're like in the thing where you have to buy 800.
Then they're like, don't feed the deer and da, da, da. And I'm like, what am I going to do with these radishes?
Totally.
And so like I'm looking into fermenting and blah, blah, blah. And just all these things. But all in all, when you think about how many times I take leftovers home, how many times I forget those leftovers, how many times I throw food away, it's disturbing. Very
Overconsumption
disturbing.
is a big problem.
And then you realize that, again, like on that documentary, for me, one of the most disturbing pictures on that documentary was how big the one cow farm was. One cow farm.
I know.
It looked like it was half a state. It was huge. And that's just one. And I'm like, God, like how many burgers go down the drain? You know what I mean? Like
totally.
It's incredible. And I always have been thinking of like what I could do with this excess. Again, I live by myself. Like I'm constantly giving my friends and my boyfriend and everybody food all the time because I waste so much of it and it's just hard to buy it. And again, you go to Whole Foods for micro grocery shopping, which I do not do.
It's really not economical though. I have to stop.
Of course it's not. And it's like, but then you end up wasting food too all the time. If you get in, not even bulk, if you get the regular amount. So it's like, why are they feeding us so much all the time? Why are they making us eat so much all the time?
And compared to other countries, like the amount of food that Americans consume is next level.
And they wonder why everyone is struggling with weight and stuff.
Exactly.
It's a whole fucking circuit.
And I think everything overconsumption wise, I think it's important to take a beat on the way that we've just been. And it's like, that's influencer era. I mean, like everyone on social media is like, unbox with me today. And it's 75 boxes of shit that they got for free for brands that they want to push their stuff. And it's like, we've got to stop thinking that's cool. It's complete waste. And so it's like this awareness of like, okay, maybe instead of buying all of these things that are going to go bad in a few days, or if I have to buy too many of them, maybe I can drop it off at a local place. I can look up, like fridges or places where you can take things.
That's so
it's amazing.
Perfect. I wonder if there are more of those around.
We'll take that as an action item for us to keep looking into that. But just a reminder that gardens can bloom from once land that looked like it couldn't, and that I thought was a really cool part of the documentary. And even your client was talking about today how this was done in an area downtown of like urban areas where these gardens are being planted and then it's providing food for the local community. Like that's the future of consumption, like really getting back to small batch growing your own food. And it takes people willing to do it.
Or the little private gardeners like Tomato Monster that, Lee, who does Tomato Monsters, and she does peppers. And then she works with other gardeners that do other specialty vegetables or whatnot, and the honeys and the
more
this
and more are popping up. Like,
and they're amazing.
On someone's street corner.
And you can't eat a tomato from the grocery store after eating a Tomato Monster. You just can't. I mean, these vegetables that these gardeners do they're. It's been so long since we've actually eaten these
real
things.
food.
Real food. They're like,
and we become so desensitized that like this is supposed to be what a tomato tastes like, and then you taste a real one and you're like, holy shit.
No doubt. It's insane. I literally have not bought a tomato all winter long because I wait for hers to come around. Because it's like, it's just wild to kind of like, and you can just also know the nutrients in all of it because it's real.
100%.
You know what I mean? Instead of watered down vegetable.
Watered down, coated with wax.
Totally.
All of it is meant to last longer and be produced on a massive scale. And it comes with this, it's like our quality is suffering so tremendously. And that suffering of quality is what's leading to disease that continues to rise.
And that being said, like I always I always fight with my sister because, I mean, she, to get her to eat vegetables a little bit more. But I'd rather her eat the watered down tomato than eat fast food. You know what I mean? That kind of thing too. So it's like, I don't know. It's so frustrating sometimes.
It is. But it's like when your neighbor down the street has their little farm stand out front,
stop by.
Stop by.
No doubt.
A lot of times people do it for free because their garden produces such an abundance.
Yes. No doubt. They're like, please take
it.
Yes.
Like
absolutely.
There are a lot of people in our area that are doing their own gardening. If you are gardening this year and you have an abundance, hit me up. We'll find a place for people who needs it.
Same.
But like the facts are you are what you eat, like we said, and like the name of the documentary is. And so their whole study was to see the changes in the brain, the microbiome, the body composition, and the biochemistry of two twins with exact DNA going on two completely polar opposite diets. I think part one that I have a problem with is the two completely opposite diets. And we'll get into that a little later because I want to give a little more context on like omnivore versus plant-based. But I'm a big believer, and I think a big takeaway that I had from this is like we need to stop labeling diet one or the other. Like it's about getting the right nutrients for your body, and that includes a variety.
Yeah, like when I was so frustrated about it, I was like, now I know from following Dr. Mark Hyman, because he was, so ahead of the functional medicine and everything like that, just like balance is all that's been pushed. And I remember kind of like saying to myself, just remember balance. But there's those moments when you are getting hit up on social media and you're watching a documentary like that. You're like, no, is it about balance or should I go one way or another? And
I think even myself, it's like, that's why I really wanted to talk about it, is because I'm fully aware, like I've done a lot of research on plants and vegetables and fruits that can really cleanse and detoxify your body. But then I also am training and I'm trying to build muscle. And so then I'm just like inundated with like protein. And I find myself like prioritizing, even if it's clean meat, and deprioritizing some of the vegetables. And then I'm missing out on the cruciferous vegetables that truly can detox your entire body.
Yeah. I mean, what they were talking about, what it does to your intestines without having some of the
microbiome.
Oh my God.
I know.
Intestines and everything, and how it
Brain
can start
health.
eating away your intestines if you don't have enough vegetables in there helping. Oh my God. I was like, oh yeah, I bet that's happening for sure in my intestines, because like there are days, same thing. I mean, everybody, as I'm going through all this HRT and everything, everyone's just pushing protein to me, because you lose so much muscle when all these hormones are plunging. So it's like, I can't get enough cottage cheese and steak and eggs and da 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 da. And I'm like, and then again, that's why I was like, between that and then all of the pesticide thing going on with all the plants and everything, and then to watch this documentary can twist your brain.
It can twist your brain. But I think that's where removing the noise and getting back to the basics is so key. So, and another caveat that I want to mention is that I did research because I felt like the data results were a bit skewed.
For sure.
And we'll walk through those.
Yeah.
But I did research after the fact, and this documentary is 100% founded or backed by big plant. So this is like the vegans
very
of the
easy
vegans.
to find.
Yeah,
like, who funded this? And
exactly.
It's like beyond me.
Right. So it's like, it's definitely very skewed to wanting to the results and making sure that the documentary depicts the results,
of course,
that are positive to the plant side.
They were
things.
They were absolutely being contradictory in their own like research from episode 1 to episode 4.
Agreed.
Like they were like all about individual, but that's why they got the twins and da-da-da. Not once did they mention, I mean, I don't know if you've ever known identical twins or twins at all, but these twins were, some of them were like, I mean, they lived together and stuff. I mean, they were inseparable. It was wild. But to me, there was, knowing twins growing up, there was always like, in the twin set, there was always a dominant twin. And mentally, you could see the difference in them. One being a little bit stronger, more outgoing, the other one being more of an introvert, blah, blah, blah. Diet plays a huge difference when you're eating, when you're that kind of mental type of person. There's no doubt about it.
No, that was a big takeaway I took and that I wanted to talk about at the end was they didn't give the holistic view on the fact that like diet is the one piece, environment and lifestyle are the others.
100%.
And if you are eating this incredibly well-rounded, healthy sourced diet, but you have absolutely no joy or purpose in your life, you also may lose 10 years of your life.
For sure.
You know, so it's like that side of things that they didn't go into, which I'm like, so yeah, again, it's like take it, which is what I loved it. It like created this conversation and this like awareness of holistic body, mind, soul health is like really important. And it's not just
it
one
didn't turn
thing.
me vegan.
Right.
Even though I texted my boyfriend, I was like, that's it, I'm a vegan.
Right.
You know, but it definitely was like, oh, I got to make some different choices. Like, even though I'm hearing that noise.
It really changed your mind. And I think I talk a lot about this, have over the last 5 years that I've had the blog, but this is it illustrated. My whole thing has always been the real food diet. And it's being really conscious of where your food comes from because that's the most important. What kicked off my whole health journey was after my parents passed away, I got the BRCA gene test. It came back negative and it set off this whole lifestyle change for me of doing what I could to learn more to mitigate my potential for cancer and Alzheimer's disease in my own self. And so the first thing I did was Google top 5 things that cause cancer. And it's alcohol, cigarettes, processed meat. And so in my head, I'm like,
processed meat, not plant processed meat, processed meat. Got it.
So I immediately, and I was like, well, I actually love animals and I hate thinking about the behind the scenes. At the time, I'm also living in California, so there's a lot of vegetarian options.
Totally.
So I'm like, a more vegetarian diet is accessible to me. I'm here on the coast with the best seafood, so I'm switching to pescatarian. Like, I'm not eating this meat that's causing cancer anymore. Processed industrialized meat is a class 1 carcinogen.
100%.
That is so important for us to all understand and like really take in because we are so desensitized to it. And I think it's like we think about it on this high scheme of things and it's like, oh, okay, well, but I'm buying like organic chicken. And that's where this documentary really digs in. And I loved the awareness that it provided on the meat side of things, even though it is scary, because we are living in an omnivore world right now. I did a poll on my Instagram to see like who's omnivore and who's plant-based.
Yeah.
I mean, 95% omnivore.
For sure.
And it's because we're in the protein era.
For sure.
And again, I'm a big fan.
And everyone was so pissed off about like when they were pressing being vegan, you know, and vegan came of age so hard, plant-based everything, you know, plant-based meats, you know, phenomenon came about and everything. And then all of a sudden, as soon as they said, actually, meat is good for you, people went buck wild. And they were like, give me all the steak you can. You know what I mean? Because they were so pissed off. People were telling them it was bad for them.
And then we like swing so far in the opposite direction. And so like, that's where I want to like halt 100%. Our brakes for a second and say like, it goes back to the same exact thing, whether you're plant-based, omnivore, whatever, gluten-free, whatever you're eating, it's all about sourcing. And if we can just focus on real food first, that's where we're going to find the key for finding the highest quality, best nutrient dense, safest for the body and planet type food. Because I think what we don't realize is that 96% of the meat that is being consumed in America is industrialized and processed.
96.
Like, let that sink in.
Those numbers were the ones that were like, oh, Jesus.
Exactly.
That and when they were talking about grass-fed with the Amazon.
And I think, so like, that's the part that I want to dig into a little bit too, and where I think that even though there may have been some bias in the studies, it did show the reality of what the meat industry is. Yeah. They did interview a regenerative farmer, which is the future. This is the solution, is regenerative local farming. It's not to say don't eat meat anymore, but right now, only 4% of the meat that we're eating in general is safe. So if you're not buying it locally from a farm where you know how the animals are being treated and what they're being fed, or from a regenerative source, you're potentially becoming contaminated by the industrial meat market, which is so much bigger than we can even fathom until we see behind the scenes. There's this area in North Carolina. This was the most disturbing part of the documentary for both of us, I think. There's this area in North Carolina where the majority of the pigs that are farmed in our country are located. And I mean, the way that there is like feces sprayed all over this town, there's been class action lawsuits because of people who've been so sick and diseased by the air quality and the water quality from what's going in to the land from these places.
I mean,
but it's like someone might hear that on paper or like high level and be like, okay, well, I'm not getting my meat from there. That's where it gets interesting. 99% of the chicken coming from there. The chicken in our grocery stores commercially, 99% of it comes from this particular place. 98 of the eggs from hens comes from this place. 96% of the pigs comes from this place. 97% of turkey comes from this place. So every time I go in Whole Foods, I'm disturbed by the meat section. Like there is something so sterile about it. I've been saying for a while, like chicken doesn't align with me energetically. And even though it says organic pasture raised on it, I'm like, it's packed the same way as the other ones. It looks the same as the other ones. They all look the same. There's 75 options. Like this just can't be right. Like this mass production of this, you know? And sure enough, it's not right.
No, because that one guy was like, you can say it's pasteurized, but you can have thousands in one little pasture.
Exactly.
That's it.
And it really like it takes farms that are willing to invest in the land, the feed, and the energy that it requires to truly become regenerative. But if we as consumers start to invest in that kind of meat, we will get it. Because as of right now, the government is providing subsidies for the farms to produce more using the cheapest feed, corn, soy, pesticide-filled feed. They're getting grants and money towards that type of practice. We as consumers incentivize the future by investing in the better brands.
For sure.
And they exist around our city, around our counties. There are still, thank God, local farms and regenerative farms that we can source. And the more that we do that, and what might seem like, well, because I think when you're watching it, I'm like, what am I going to do for the collective good? Like, how can little old me and what I'm eating really help drive change? One lifestyle shift, then another lifestyle shift, then another. And then there's opportunities and there's need for these farmers to be able to produce something for a market that people are willing to invest in.
Well, little old you too. You know, you have a podcast.
I mean, little old me is going to scream from the rooftops.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. I mean, you got, you know.
Yeah, but I think it's like you see these, it's like we see these industrial farms and we're like, fuck, that's just the way it is. But it's like, I want to believe that like there's an opportunity for better. So I loved the regenerative farmer that was interviewed and he talked about how animals ancestrally want to feed on different things and have a variety in their diet. So the purpose of regenerative farming is pasture rotation. So not only are they having like free range roaming access to outside land, they're switched into different pastures. So then they're eating different bugs and proteins and grass and all sorts of stuff that is feeding the whole ecosystem of the food system. And the animal itself is not only healthier, but it's happier, and that in
producing
turn
better meat, milk.
Yeah, the ecosystem around it is thriving. It's this whole like trickle down effect of what the food chain was supposed to be. And so I think like knowing that there's hope out there is really what like I want to hang on to and encourage consumers to also hang on to. Regenerative farms that are available to us, like I said, Force of Nature Meats is really like doing it best when it comes to the large scale. They have found a way to scale it, and it is in stores across the nation. Their practices are incredible. It's all regenerative farmed, and they offer bison, ground chicken, venison, steaks, beef. Like they have the gamut. And so that's the easy, most convenient choice.
Okay. I'm just going to write some of this down. Sorry, I know I can listen to this, but I'm still writing it down.
And we'll put a little like printout for you guys. A PDF for you guys of if you're local. I know like a big part of the community is local, so I do want to provide it. I will have some other resources coming out in the next few weeks, maybe like a month, for people who may not be local on how to shop safely.
Okay, cool.
But I think for people that are local, like I just want to point them in the right direction. And
sure.
we have a good little resource because you went down a rabbit hole of finding them all.
Mm-hmm.
So Force of Nature,
but that wasn't one
enough.
that was even on there. I don't
Right, because you looked locally and they're national. So it's like for my cheekies that are in Atlanta, Force of Nature.
I gotcha. Very cool. All right. Nice.
And then when it comes to locally, we have more options than we think. There really are, like we're in Ohio, there really are a lot of smaller farms that you may not even like realize. So my boyfriend lives in Amherst. He knows a farmer who raises beef on their beautiful land, and we're going to buy and split a cow. And it's like we're able to talk to the farmer and understand what they're feeding them and how the animal's living, go and see them, like such a great resource.
Right.
Then, so that's like as local as it gets, but then there's more of the farmers market type. So North Union Farmers Market is an example. They have farmers markets, about like 6 of them throughout the week on different days of the week throughout the city, all areas, east and west side throughout the summer. So typically from May through October. There's also a couple farmers markets that go throughout the winter. So North Union has one that's at Crocker Park that goes throughout the winter. And then Frostville, which is this little farmers market in the Berea, North Olmsted area. They have a farm there called Elm Run Farms all winter long. And it's frozen, right? Because it's like there are certain seasons for animals, which I think is also important to understand. Like eating seasonally is also eating locally. And you could probably order directly from them, but they also do sell at the Frostville Farmers Market.
Yeah.
And then Ohio City Provisions is a great example of what a grocery store should look like. They're local. They have their own farmlands that they raise all of their animals and grow their own food on. Their butcher is right on site.
Okay.
It's very small. It's not like you walk into this 85 aisle place. The whole point is farm to table. So that's a great spot where you're like, shit, I need dinner tonight. I need to go pick something up. I want a variety.
They're doing a ton of stuff this summer too. I think
And they do a market share. So like you can order and pick up from there.
Yeah.
If like the subscription thing is more your vibe.
Right. Well, I think they're in connection with some of those subscription people too, for sure. Yeah.
For pickup.
Yeah.
So the meat side of things is just so important. And I think getting deeper into this training world that I'm in, the macros are key. And I do think protein is key, but it's the right protein. And this world of like protein, that's fine. But what protein and where it's coming from, I can't stress enough. Because if you're just like force feeding yourself with bad quality protein, which is 96% of what's on the market, just to get it down, like you are increasing your risk for disease.
Allie, talk about salmon.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So salmon is the next thing. Fish in general. Fish, 50% of the fish in grocery stores is farm raised. I actually feel like it's more because Whole Foods, for example,
way more than 50%.
One option. Like, there's 2. I mean, I don't know. The king salmon, I get the vibe that the wild king salmon is one of the wild ones that's contaminated because it always like looks a little weird to me.
It's the one. Didn't you tell me there's the other one that you always get?
I like the Alaskan sockeye.
The sockeye. That's what it is.
The wild caught sockeye. If I'm going to buy commercially, that's the one that I go with. And you can tell how pink it is naturally. So the farm raised ones, you guys, this is like so twisted the way that the farm raised system is. They basically put these pods in the ocean and they're mass producing these fish that are once again spreading diseases and parasites. They have like holes in them. They're absolutely disturbed. And then they have now learned that consumers have learned that wild caught fish, when it comes to salmon, like should have this like rich pink color. And these genetically modified fish are like white, basically. So they're pumping them with dyes. And I mean, the chemicals, the way pesticides,
they're swimming in their own waste constantly. There's no filtration whatsoever. They're actually getting there's so much waste that it's leaking into the oceans. That's what's contaminating the other wild salmon
and the ecosystem.
For sure.
Yep. You know, like the birds that are eating the wild salmon are now like eating wild salmon that's contaminated with feces from farm salmon.
Right.
So that's just such a conscious choice that I think to be aware of. And again, we have options. So there is a delivery service called Vital Choice. They're very focused on sustainable practices because that's the other thing is wild caught is there's some issues with the earth and the environment and the way that it's caught. So trying to find brands that are doing it in a more sustainable, conscious way is really cool. And Vital Choice is one of those. And you can get it delivered to your door, throw it in your freezer, and have it for 4 months. You know, then you don't have to think about it again. Because honestly, another fact that I learned this last week is Americans are becoming so deficient in EPA and DHA, and EPA and DHA deficiency is similarly detrimental to our lifespan the way that smoking cigarettes is.
Wow.
You
learned this over in
Dr.
Vegas?
Rhonda Patrick, who is she's on, her podcast is called Found My Fitness. She's very popular. She's a real one. And yeah, she shared that.
Wow.
Yeah. And so finding healthy fish to get your EPA and DHA from is so critical, and or supplementing fish oil from a quality source. I was going to make
you
one.
Soon will have.
I will if you guys want it. The thing about it, the formula is that most of the manufacturers do put a natural lemon flavor because it's really fishy if not. And I just don't love natural flavors. So I'm still doing some research with my manufacturer to see which quality of natural flavor I can get. Because if it's the highest quality one, then I would put it in. And they do really high quality. But I was going to do one thing at a time. And then I learned that this weekend and I'm like, I got to offer that.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, fish, so critical to make sure you're buying locally. There are some other options too. Katanice is a fish company here. So Sammy, my close friend Sammy, her husband,
What's it called?
uncle owns it, Katanice, and they source like all fresh fish.
Okay.
Yep. And like you can buy it from them directly, and they do serve a couple restaurants here. So Ginkgo and your favorite sushi place.
Matsu.
Yeah. They're getting the good stuff. And that's why when you go to
Hell
Ginkgo,
yeah, they are. They're amazing.
That's why when you go to Ginkgo, it tastes so much different than
sure.
if you get sushi somewhere else. Because sushi somewhere else is probably farm raised.
We got to go to Matsu.
Yeah. Takeaway for us today.
Love it.
So meat.
How do you spell
fish,
that though?
I think Catanese. I think that's the name of it.
Okay.
Is it pulling up?
Yeah. Classic seafood. Got it right here.
Yeah.
I was using an
Mhm.
I. Yep.
So that's a great option.
Very cool.
And again,
so many
family
things-
owned. I know the family.
You got so many things to put on this
I know.
description. Holy Moses.
Okay, so then the third part, which again is like, okay, so just eat plants. That's another part where it's like, I can't stress enough that you have to be careful of the sourcing because this glyphosate pandemic is real. And we are, again, the same way that our government is mass producing meat, our government is mass producing plants. And that has required farmers, in order to keep up with demand, to spray glyphosate and these other pesticides on it in order to yield enough to keep up with the demand. So I do like organic for that main reason. If you're shopping commercially, I've talked about this a lot, but if you're shopping commercially and you're going to choose between organic and conventional, you always want to choose organic. But the even higher tier is choosing local. Because most often in small farms, they can't afford the organic certification. It actually would put them under to have to go through all the financial resources to get the certification. And then it's like they're already spending more money to not spray the pesticides in the first place. So you can find GMO-free, small batch producers that are just as safe, if not a higher tier than organic.
Got it.
So always ask the question. And any good producer will have a website with their practices on it.
Right.
So I was buying eggs the other day. Talk about eggs. I'm buying eggs the other day, and there's a lot of strife with commercial eggs right now. Big Egg has taken over. And you are there and looking at the plethora of egg options
At the grocery store.
This is what I would recommend. I would say don't buy free range or cage free. That means nothing. That means that like these hens are still inside. They're getting like this much room. It's BS. Pasture raised is better, but again, there has been this surge in pasture rig purchases since consumers have gotten smarter. So a lot of the smaller farms that were doing it better, like Vital Farms eggs, have been purchased by big business conglomerations, which then they want to maximize profits. So now they're feeding the chickens corn and soy and high inflammatory oil-based feed, which is then sinking into the eggs, which is then sinking into us. So then it just goes back to mass production ruins everything. So what I recommend is going with pasture raised, but going with the smallest brand that you can find there. And it might take a minute to look around. It's probably the one that doesn't have as many on the shelf. Locally, I really like Seven Sons. I really like Copia Farms. Honestly, like Heinen's does a pretty good job of local. So it's like I would do their brand pasture raised before I would do Vital Farms. But wherever you're at, like take a look, take 5 seconds. You can pull it up on your phone. ChatGPT is freaking amazing for stuff like this. Take a picture, send it to ChatGPT, and tell me what's the smallest farm of these eggs.
Yeah, but now you're going to get everybody pissed off about that.
What, ChatGPT?
Yeah.
I think it should be used for positive, and that's a positive way to use it.
I know, but everyone's debating that it's fucking our whole water system.
ChatGPT?
You didn't know this?
No.
ChatGPT uses so much energy that it has to use all the cooling from the water. Now I see everybody posting and bitching about ChatGPT. I'm just saying in our episode of being like that.
I'm just saying, though.
Oh, trust me. I mean, where do you think I got this?
We can be
thing?
against it all we want.
I know.
It's here.
I understand. Trust me. I use it.
And so if we're going to use it, we might as well, instead of asking it to be our therapist, like tell us what eggs to buy.
It tells me what to do when I'm pissed.
But I think that's a way where it's like you're using it for the good, because now you're supporting a local farm and your body instead of supporting
there
big
you
eggs.
go. So when we talk about ChatGPT, like
use it consciously.
Use it consciously. Don't overuse it to be like, how do I sell feed pictures to make money? Blah 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 blah. Like
is this question for chat going to be worth the greater good?
Right.
And when it comes to buying the right eggs, it is. This is amazing. So long story short, those would be like the 4 areas.
So
it's like we have options for meat, regenerative farms. We have options for fish, wild caught. We have options for vegetables and plants, glyphosate, local, safe, and pesticide free. And we have options for eggs, smallest farm you can find.
Which the eggs are washed and sanitized, removing the coating that's necessary to prevent salmonella and spoilage. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the other thing with chicken, guys.
Wild. God.
So every industry is highly regulated before coming into commercial grocers for bacteria, except for poultry. Poultry is allowed to get by. And so 1 in 25 chickens at the grocery store is contaminated with salmonella, and 1 in 5 is contaminated with E. coli.
Amazing.
We have options.
We got to tell them.
T Hills, Elm Run Farms.
Yep.
We got options.
Yeah, if you see this documentary,
so
you'll know why.
It was really eye-opening. And, like I think another big takeaway for me, besides like the sourcing, which I've mentioned a lot about, like local regenerative farming, look for organic, pesticide-free. The other things were these label claims. Like we have to be conscious of not being fooled by label claims. So things to avoid. Natural, free range, cage free, hormone free, farm fresh, vegetarian feed, grass fed. None of that means anything for you. You want to look for things like pasture raised, small batch, grass finished, and local farm transparency. So it goes back to your golf ball. It takes one time to search a farm, and then and look at their about me, and then you know how happy they are when you give them your money. It's the best feeling. And then you're not supporting these like poor animals that are being treated so bad. So the other things I would say, just as we're talking about the solution, is 2 things. One diet does not fit all. That woman, the girlfriend doctor, she was like coining this term, which I liked, keto green. So she puts like her women with hormone issues on a keto green diet. So it's, like protein heavy. So we definitely want to source safe meat with healthy, safe source proteins. But we cannot forget the vegetables.
Right.
And that's where this data was really skewed, is because if you take a person who is eating the standard American diet of just meat, industrialized meat, and they're not eating a variety of vegetables, of course they're not going to see as much value as someone who's being now force-fed quality vegetables. I think in general, Americans aren't eating enough variety of vegetables. And so it's like there are inherent things in vegetables that are like made to protect our bodies from cancer. It's like the sulfur something that's inside these cruciferous Brussels sprouts, arugula, broccoli.
Arugula?
Arugula. What is arugula?
Arugula. That's amazing.
These things are naturally detoxifying.
Amazing. Broccoli. Broccoli sprouts.
Broccoli sprouts.
Ugh.
This shit's so good for
They're
you.
on sale for like 3 for $7 at Heinz.
So good for you. So easy to add to your plate.
You put
so
it
it's
on
like
anything you barely taste.
you need both.
It's so good for you.
And then supplementing is key. Like, we're not always going to be able to get every single thing from our diet. And so it is important to supplement, whether that's fish oil. I wish I had my little notebook, not that one, in here right now. But Dr. Rhonda Patrick was talking about multivitamins. And if people who were supplementing with a multivitamin, like, improved their brain health.
It's interesting. The last 2 doctors I went to said to me, I don't encourage supplements, doctors, because they want you to rely on your food source so much. But I think they're forgetting that all of this, basically. They're forgetting all of this.
Yeah.
And I don't.
It's just the deficiencies are so big.
But they gave me a bunch of prescriptions. You know what I'm saying? So, hello. But
yeah, they don't want you to rely on the supplements because they know your food's going to kill you.
Right.
And without the supplements and the food, you're
like,
fucked.
Take this pill
and
instead.
now you have so many pills that you could take.
It's amazing.
Yeah. No, and I can't recommend. And like I said, I did just drop a methylated multivitamin because not only should you be taking a quality multivitamin to make sure you're getting the sources that you need, a lot of people do have a gene that blocks them from processing nutrients. So that means the food that you're eating isn't being processed properly if you're not getting enough of the right kind of methylated B vitamins.
Right.
So sometimes 50% of us, that's a lot of people, actually have to take a methylated B vitamin supplement in order to get the nutrients from their healthy diet.
For sure.
So can't recommend it enough. And those are some ways where you can learn more and live better. I do think like a couple of the things from the results that were interesting was muscle. So muscle, they said in the beginning of the episode, and Andy Galpin, who's a doctor for like the top athletes, he at the conference I was at was talking about the connection between muscle and mental health, muscle loss and disease, and muscle mass being a 50% increase or decrease in death. So we're now in this culture of like skinny again. Like skinny is in. And I think people don't realize that as you lose fat, you also lose muscle. So a lot of the results on the vegetarian diet, the vegan diet, they were losing a lot of fat, but they were also losing muscle.
And they didn't talk about that at all.
No.
They didn't point it out at all, even though they were showing the numbers. And even though in the first episode, they went on and on about muscle, but then didn't talk about how their muscle went down on the vegan diet at all. Which I, through a friend of mine who had a company called Raw Trainer, learned a lot about plant proteins. This was an 8-week altogether. This was an 8-week study. That is not enough time, all in all as well. But yeah, they definitely did not emphasize on how that went lower, because in the omnivore, some of their muscle went up. But they were like, but then your cholesterol this.
Then they're like, but your LDL cholesterol is too high. And like, that's another buzzword. We've all talked about how like the blood work you get from standard medicine isn't actually intuitive at all.
You should see mine. My LDL is like in the yellow.
LDL
100%.
is an exact example of that. LDL cholesterol doesn't tell the full story. The full story is the composition of those cells, the types of cholesterol within each of those cells, and the density more so, which standard blood work isn't testing for.
It does kind of suck too that this documentary also shows these tests that are almost impossible to get yourself, like that.
You can do a DEXA scan.
Oh, you can?
Yeah. DEXA scans are definitely more and more available. Functional medicine doctors, Liv has them. I'm sure like Root Cause Integrative Health has one.
Do they?
Yeah. And I do think it's important to understand your fat to muscle ratio, because
how much does that cost, you think?
The machine?
No, to get it scanned.
Oh, I don't know. A couple $100. And I think it's worth doing it every now and again.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to understand that as you lose fat, you also lose muscle.
Right.
So if you're not doing strength training and properly fueling your body, like, and that was my problem for a little bit.
My problem.
Like, I was under eating.
Right.
So I'm strength training, I'm burning all these calories, but then my body is eating into my muscle sources. And like, I'm becoming inflamed, and I'm actually like losing longevity because I'm losing muscle because I'm not eating enough. So it's like your fuel.
Yeah. And menopause does that to you naturally.
Yes, is so important. And muscle is so important. The other thing that's interesting that people don't realize, especially with the GLP-1s, is toxins are stored in your fat. So if you start rapidly losing that fat, those toxins that are stored in there are getting pushed into your bloodstream. So detoxification and cleaning up your lifestyle when you're losing weight is super important, especially if you're losing weight fast. Because if not, so you get on a GLP-1 and you lose 20 pounds and then you're using every endocrine disruptor under the sun, you're much more susceptible to a hormone issue than if you were heavier, honestly, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's very crazy. You know, they don't talk that.
No, it was interesting. I think what I took away from it was sourcing is key, and that quieting the noise and understanding where your food and your plants are coming from is so important, and eating a variety for your body is the most powerful thing you can do. But then it's the other two core pieces, which we talked about. So lifestyle and environment. And in the beginning of the show, they talked about two different places, San Bernardino, California, which is full of fast food restaurants. And then 5 miles away, Loma Linda, which is more of a plant-based area.
Right.
They didn't talk about how that Loma Linda is one of the most religious places in the country. Also one of the most active. So it's environment, it's joy, it's connection, it's purpose, it's diet. It's all of those things.
Yeah, they did.
They're adding 10 years to their lives versus the people that are 5 miles away. So it's like these little habits that we always talk about. They're so powerful.
How they connect. Like how the mental
yes
connects with all of it and everything. Like every time my girls at work are like struggling with something or getting sick or this and that, I'm like, what'd you eat today? What are you know what I mean? Like we always talk about anything from breath work to what are you eating for lunch today? Are you eating a Hot Pocket or are you eating
fuel?
Like real food.
Did you get sleep last night?
Right.
Or did you just look at your screen all night?
Know, they're beating themselves up for certain things at work and stuff, which is easy to do. And it's like, what do you do? How are you feeding your body and your mind right now to put that narrative in your head right now?
Body and mind, totally.
It all connects.
And spirit.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I also want to say, because of that, guilt and shame and fear is detrimental to health. So even though we're letting you guys know about this and that you might watch a documentary that's really shell-shocking and you're like, fuck, I have so much to change, like, know that you have options.
When you get overwhelmed, talk to people.
Plug
yourself in and get resources because
resources.
When again, I was so overwhelmed this past week. I was like, where's Allie? I've got to talk to her. She's got to watch this documentary and talk me off the ledge. That's that.
And now look at you. You're so empowered.
Now I'm like so connected now. Now after talking to you and after like doing a little bit of my own research and even talking to like my best friend and stuff like that, telling me to chill out, it's okay and blah, blah, blah. Like you're gonna get overwhelmed, but I really felt so helpless after. It's so crazy. Like I felt helpless after a documentary. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to be so healthy and then I felt so helpless and so beaten down. And then you know what happens when you feel like that? You go the opposite way and say, fuck it. I get the fuck it's. And I just go exactly the opposite way because there's no hope.
Yeah.
You can't do anything right. Blah, 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 blah. And there's that part of you also, and this comes into the mental mind and the addictive mind and everything else where you're like, I'm never going to feel any different than I feel right now. I'm overwhelmed. I'm never going to have any hope again about food and my health and nutrition and da-da-da-da. And that's what's not true. Have faith. Stay, it's going to be okay. Have a little bit of faith, use your resources, your connections, tap into your friends, the people who know, blah, 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 blah. And it took like 2 or 3 days for me to get off of that edge where I was like, you should have seen, like, that was Sunday that I watched it. Monday I came in, like, what I think the first client I had, I probably was throwing up all this information. And she was like, Jen, calm down. Like, it's okay.
One thing that's cool about the documentary, I do think, is it's like, it does show you that in 8 weeks with habit change, you really can shift stuff.
There is change.
So it's
for
like
sure.
Now with awareness and tapping into resources, like who cares what you've done in the past?
Right. Let's do it.
Now
from
you
now
have an
on.
opportunity to create some habits. Maybe every now and again you go to a restaurant and you can't control the sourcing. Totally fine. Majority of time you stay consistent with finding the resources and the places to eat better, live lighter, do the things in your day-to-day that help you feel good. You really can change the trajectory in a short time.
For sure. You really can. That was pretty amazing to see that. Yeah, I was definitely grateful to see this documentary, honestly, to get me out of the whole protein craze.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It did get me, it didn't know. Trust me, Sunday night I was a vegan, but it's Thursday now. I'm not a vegan any longer.
And again, because like some of those vegan options are really
oh my God,
toxic.
I couldn't believe like they were giving
Impossible Burger.
Oh my God, they were giving him stuff, and I was like, I just read something about that. You know what I mean? So, which is where you just start to feel so hopeless and everything. And they talked about this whole food processing thing with the war and everything, and then they're sending these people processed food for this diet. Oh. And I was like, what? Like. So anyways, but then like seeing who it was funded by and blah, 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 blah.
Makes sense.
But it was definitely an eye opener for this, for the whole thing. It definitely benefited for sure. It's good to be open-minded, and it also taught me not to go down those rabbit holes on my social media.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And just kind of like
and to
put the
stop
fucking
listening
phone
to
down
the
and
noise.
go to the market. You know what I mean?
And like what feels good in your body? Like when you eat fermented food, like how does that feel in your digestive system? Like just start to notice what feels good for you. Right. And I think it's just like, unprogramming our brains from this mass-produced world to reprogramming our brains on how we feel when we eat real nutrients. Mm-hmm. And like, that's the power. Yeah.
And, it actually motivated me to use another subscription that I have, which is to my therapist's office, Stella Luna's, and they have all these wellness treatments there. Shout out to them. I mean, I did my red light therapy, sauna, I did a float tank and stuff like that, just little things like that, taking care of my body.
Your stress level.
Oh my God, my stress level went down. I got over this a little bit, you know what I mean? I kind of like, and trust me, I don't have time for this, quote unquote, but I made the time. I slept 8 hours. I felt so much better. I wasn't in as much pain. You know what? I didn't eat as much dairy and meat after this documentary, honestly. Like I was eating so much cottage cheese. It was coming out of my ears. I mean, I was like, so I just chilled out a little bit. I put a little bit more plants into my life, a little bit. And so days later felt so much better because it did motivate me to take care of myself way more.
And there are people on a completely vegetarian diet who are eating enough protein still. It's just like what feels good in your body. For me personally, like I get really bloated when I eat like too many legumes and like grains and like too carb heavy.
Right.
Right. So it's like I like a leaner protein diet, but heavy nutrient diet. My plate is 3/4 plants. And then I have like a real quality, local sourced, regenerative piece of meat.
Right.
And that's a energetically great fit for me. My body loves it. I sleep great.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why I think a safe fasting here and there.
Oh God, no, fasting 100%.
Because then when you introduce certain things back into your body, you really can feel what's doing what to your body.
Yeah.
If you are bogged down after eating certain foods after fasting, I know exactly what puts me to sleep and I know exactly what gives me real energy.
Yep.
After
Every doctor last week said fasting is
that's what I'm saying.
So critical for the body.
They are, if we really didn't eat some of the foods we didn't need, some of this
so it's like instead of like stuffing the face with the beef sticks and all the stuff just to like check the protein box, like fast, let your body reset, have a few whole sourced meals of quality variety, and you will feel good and you will feel better about where your food's coming from.
Yeah.
And it's empowering. And so I'm going to leave us with this last quote, which is from the podcast this morning too, that said, "We are not called to save the world, but to not become part of the collapse."
Beautiful.
And we do that by changing ourselves.
Yep.
And that's cool as hell.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting us on to this transformational week, Jen.
From an old documentary.
And if you liked this episode and you love having Jen on, please like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. Please follow me at TheCheekyClean. Please shop clean collagen and essentials, methylated multivitamin and magnesium, and more to come at Conscious Cart. And Jen, thank you for being here as always.
Of course.
Thank you for creating the vessel.
Hey, put those lists up. This is going to be great.
Yeah, we're going to put the lists of the things we talked about today.
You are.
Yeah, I will. In the show notes so that you guys can have a resource, and there will be more resources coming. I'm going to start doing some more local detoxing courses and things. So I just think connecting people to a new way of being able to source for themselves so it doesn't feel so overwhelming is important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. Love you. Bye.
Bye.